Sasha Dawn and Jack York share with us the heartwarming and inspiring lessons learned from transforming challenges into opportunities for connection and joy through the innovative use of technology and storytelling. Amid the global isolation of the 2020 COVID-19 pandemic, Sasha faced a personal crisis. Her father, a once vibrant Vietnam War hero, fell and had to be placed in a skilled nursing community far away. Confronted with seeing the loneliness her father experienced, she embarked on a mission to alleviate the isolation experienced by seniors like him. This journey led to the innovative use of technology through Utopia Experiences, transforming the way we engage with the older adult population in senior living communities and supporting family caregivers at home. They now harness the power of virtual, live-hosted, interactive game shows to not only entertain but stimulate, engage, and connect residents and their families, creating moments of joy and rekindling cherished memories. Joining our conversation is Jack York, a visionary who values connecting people to nostalgic memories. Jack's journey began in Silicon Valley, where he realized that his passion is in connecting people. This realization led him to co-found It's Never Too Late, and now founder of TaleGate. He has witnessed the power of storytelling and its ability to bring families together, creating bonds that transcend time and distance. In our conversation, we look at how Utopia Experiences revolutionizing family gatherings and supporting caregivers in community settings. We'll explore the unique value of connecting people to cherish memories, the role of game therapy in connecting families, and how Jack has witnessed the transformative effect of showing up with curiosity, asking meaningful questions, the power of listening, and shared experiences in uniting families. From his travels in a 42-foot trailer capturing the lives of our oldest generation, Jack's tales are not just stories but bridges that connect the past with the present. Join us as we journey through these stories and learn how Utopia Experiences is not just a game but a catalyst for bringing generations together. Thank you, Sasha and Jack, for this meaningful conversation, and here is my interview with Sasha Dawn and Jack York. Sasha's a dear friend. I've had the opportunity to meet Jack. We spent the evening, we all just chatted. We couldn't stop. I'm looking forward to our conversation today. I know it's going to be so good. Welcome. Thank you for being here, visiting with me.
Thank you so much. I'm really excited to be chatting with both of you again.
Hi, Sasha. How are you?
I'm going to go with amazing.
It seems like just a week ago we were sipping margaritas somewhere in Denver. Time just flies by.
We were, yeah. Well, I'm looking forward to doing that again.
Yeah, you guys, this is so good. And you can tell that there's so much passion behind what you're up to. Sasha, I know you have such a story about what brought you to want to create Utopia Experiences. I know it's personal, and we related to each other on that with my grandma and her love of games and all of that. So tell us more about what brought you to this place.
Well, I have the pleasure, I think, of getting to tell the story quite often because I'm still in the thick of it all with introducing what we're doing to activities professionals. But also I have the pleasure to kind of retell my story and get a different perspective when I speak with Jack and when I speak with you, Nicole, because we all have a story that brought us here. And lucky for me, I think the more that I tell the story, the more vulnerable I feel and the less alone I feel, because in the mix of it all happening years ago, my father is a Vietnam War hero. He did 5 tours in Vietnam. He was there for 9.5 of 11 years. He was in the Army, Green Beret, Special Forces, bad ass, right? He was a very tough guy. During quarantine and in the middle of COVID, he lived independently and he fell. He had a stroke and he was in his own fluids for a couple days when I was notified by a neighbor that they hadn't seen my routine father do his daily, 5 a.m. walk for a couple days. And so we couldn't reach him either. We called 911 to learn, sure enough, he needed immediate help. He was put in the VA hospital for 5 days, and then that was my introduction to skilled nursing. He was moved to a skilled nursing facility in Arizona. Every day, the doctors and nurses were gracious to give us a medical update. And on the 10th day, they said, "I'm so sorry, Miss Dawn, your father's not going to make it. You need to plan for his service." Of which I did. And on the 11th day, when I called to get that update, is when I met an activities professional, and she heard the pain in my voice. And I said, could you please help me to see my dad? Thinking I'm going to see him, he's going to see me, and everything's going to be wonderful. And it was awful, right? It was all the things I had never experienced before. And I became really good friends with Sue. And that's really what my introduction to senior living. And I think that's how we all relate. We all have some introduction to what's going on with our loved ones that we just don't know. And I say that to activities professionals and caregivers every day. Thank you for showing up, because I didn't know you existed until I had to. And I'm just amazed, one, that the caregivers out there in the world continue to show up the way they do. And the people like you and Jack continue to show up. And, we all found an opportunity where we could offer something that made things just a little bit better and a little bit nicer for the residents, and for those living, aging in place, and for those that we love. And so it's an honor to be here with the both of you, just in light of that. When I met Sue and, became friends with her, and that obviously that first visit didn't go so well, but she called me on her drive home, and she called me every day thereafter, and we became dear friends. And I was playing silly little games. I'm clearly, if you didn't know this about me, I am an extrovert, and I was lonely myself during quarantine. And when I offered to play a silly little game with her and her own family, she asked if I would do it for her residents, of which I did. And I played a classic game that we all know and love, and my dad lit up. And I since get the opportunity now to see it every day. People light up when they get an answer, when they solve a puzzle, when they remember something from their lives. And so, yeah, I'm proud to serve alongside the two of you.
Likewise. And there's so much there where you reached out and you found this person that was willing to bring you to your loved one and connect you. And you reached out to Jack. I want to hear, how did this friendship, mentorship begin? And I want to hear more about Jack. I know you have your background in technology and now are just sharing powerful stories around the country.
Funny, I was in the technology world in the Silicon Valley in the sales and marketing context, and people think I'm a technology person, and I do all I can to let people know that I'm not. And we're surrounded by technology folks, but I always like to talk to people about just kind of the trials and tribulations of starting a company. And there's some people that, I'm always polite, but there's some people that remind me of me when I started, that you really don't know what you're doing, but you're in the right direction. And so many people helped me that I love, for whatever it's worth, helping people like Sasha that really are doing it for the right reason. And my advice is always never, a lot of times, not what people want to hear, because it just took so long to get any traction, but it under the category of you get what you pay for. I do like to help folks out when I can.
Sasha, you are so appreciative. I know you mentioned Jack and just loving his insight and support in what you're up to.
Yeah, I remember the first time Jack and I met. I was back in Colorado and asked him to lunch, and he was gracious enough to meet me for lunch. And I told him my story, and I too I was a sales rep for Symantec, Norton antivirus. I don't know much about technology either, and Jack reminds me that I don't have to know a lot about technology, but like you said, there's some sort of weird calling. But like most everything I do as a startup entrepreneur, a CEO in the senior living space feels really hard, and I'm constantly drinking from a fire hose no matter what direction I turn to. But when I put on this game show blazer, that by the way I got at a secondhand store for $4.99, it's my superhero cape. Like, I know this game, and I know the engagement, the connection, all the words, right? I know the gift that it brings. And Jack has always been a reminder, very grounded. And you're right, sometimes things I don't want to hear. Jack, when is it going to get easy? And he was like, you're not here because it's easy. That's a dumb question. But it reminds me.
I got to say, Sasha, think about your dad in Vietnam. This is I guess we call it hard, but hard can be relative. I have the same thing with my dad and World War II stuff that was always an inspiration for me, that when I thought it was hard, I thought about my dad in the middle of Burma, India, trying to clear out landing strips and 110-degree weather with humidity and mosquitoes and all that stuff. So I'm always everything's relative. Everything's relative.
It's true. That's a good point.
It is true. So, for people listening that aren't familiar with Spintopia or Utopia Experiences, tell us the overview of what it is and the purpose and how it really meets people where they're at.
Yeah, Spintopia is really like senior living's favorite live game show company. We've taken classic nostalgic game shows that have been around for 50 years, and we've created it custom for seniors, meaning the colors, sounds, fonts, words, placement. We took away a bankrupt and we put in a lose it all, right? It's no fun to lose fake money. And our puzzles are customizable. My dad, who recovered from that stroke, but now living with dementia, he plays our game live, and he's also our official puzzler. And what that means for us at the company is my dad does a couple things. One, he makes sure all of our 5,000 plus puzzles are spelled correctly. I always say, if you find one that's misspelled, take it up with my dad. I dare you. But he also makes sure that they're appropriate, because I mean, I'm not naive to think that there's a lot of free online gaming that really creative activities professionals and caregivers use. And I think that's amazing. Ours are created just for the seniors, specifically. Like my dad says, when he's looking through some of the puzzles that I propose, he's like, we don't want to hear about any Britney Spears TikTok-y BS. We want some good words. And so that's what we do. We've taken a classic feel and created it. We know in just research that I've done on my own that seniors feel like an afterthought to technology. We're not Fortnite, we're not coming up with the coolest, latest game show. We're taking what they know and love, that they're comfortable with, that they watch on television today, and we're putting them in there and getting them excited and reminiscing about the past, the present, and being able to have these, what they call, intergenerational conversations around the puzzles that we're solving today.
I was really excited to hear that you also now are offering this for older adults and family caregivers in their home or wherever they are. And speaking to that audience is where my heart is. I know background in senior living, we have a lot of people in senior living that listen, but it's been so fun to see you transition and also reach families at home. There's a huge need for that respite care, right? Ways that we can connect with our loved ones and the power of play. I've had a chance to see these faces light up when they've played it. I've been able to witness all of the laughter and smiles that come along with it. And it's personal to me in that my grandma, this was the one game that she loved and had to watch every day. And when she moved into senior living, my mom and I would call her and tell her when it was on to be able to give her that connection to things that she had loved in the past. With families that are spread across different regions, even countries, how can a game like this serve to really bridge those generations and those shared moments?
Well, I'd love to hear what Jack says about this, because Jack shared with me some stories last week, and I'm sure it's just, a drop in the bucket amongst the stories that he has collected and heard, but I think it's his motivation from what I heard today, but he gets the opportunity to somehow spark the memory of those people that he gets to meet, and what comes from it, what comes from one word or one memory is this incredible story that I think is, I don't know, Jack, you tell me, but life-changing in what you hear. Like it's a really a deeper connection that you have today versus, where you started or where you thought you'd be. But
yeah, well, I mean, just sticking with Utopia for a second, and really in IN2L over the years, is I just think it's always been kind of a misnomer that people throw aging into like this whole kind of different bucket. I think that when we started IN2L, and this is 1999, I don't know, it wasn't that crazy of an idea. It was more just observationally. I had no background in senior living, but it was just observational that these people that were teachers and welders and doctors and lawyers, they're treated like 10-year-olds in so much of the programming that was taking place in activities. And you have to deal with the reality of cognitive loss, the reality of physical loss. But just because you're old, it doesn't mean that you don't want to be connected to your own music, connected to your, what's your favorite newspaper? What are the things that keep you connected and engaged? And it's different for everybody. So with IN2L, and they're still doing a great job with this under the Life Loop umbrella, but it just, it's kind of common sense to just treat people, let them have fun, but do it in a way that's not demeaning. And Utopia just fits totally into that, because you get, not only do you get an experience at a community, you've got the ability to extrapolate it out to community versus community, and just, again, camaraderie and fun and doing something that matters to you. And it isn't that complicated, but I think, to Sasha's point, there is an art to designing a product and making it fit into an older adult environment, because you want to make it easy to use, because you may be dealing with hearing issues or sight issues, but don't make it demeaning. And I think that's sometimes how it comes across. And the history of IN2L and what Utopia is doing is, both kind of fit into that, make it easy, but no one feels foolish when they're playing the experience.
I think one really cool example that I have from my own experience with doing what we're now really offering to everybody, not just customers on our subscription base, but just on an individual base, to serve caregivers, to serve those aging in place and at home who can't connect with, whether it's the neighbor next door or the grandchildren across the country, is we are doing these Utopia Experiences live, and it is a live game show that's private for the family. So I did one for a lovely woman named Miss Ann. She's 109 years old, and her family was coming to visit her, but the entire, brood of 4 generations couldn't fly in from all over the country. And so we did a private game for her. And, they told me some things about Miss Ann. Miss Ann was in the gardening club. Her husband was a sailor. She was Catholic and says the rosary twice a day. And so we were able to customize our puzzles to be all things that were related to her life. And when she solved the puzzle, which was gardening club, which she solved, in that moment, her daughter said, "Remember, Mom, you love to garden." And she said, "I was in the gardening club magazine in the 1940s. And, her 4th generation grandson sticks his entire head in what appeared on her theater room at their home. And he said, "Nana, you were in a magazine," and it was very emotional, and it was also very organic, because in that moment she remembered and she told the story about being in the magazine in the 1940s. And that, to me, is the gift, I think, that our human connection in a digital age is bringing, because it's really kind of, there's no way that a 4-year-old would call his great grandmother and say, "Tell me about that time you were in this magazine," and it would come to light like that. But it did on video, it did on recording, and now it's a gift that they have for the rest of their lives to reminisce and really look back on.
And you can incorporate all those diverse experiences within the game, right? Because you can personalize it. So maybe getting a little bit of an inside look at your loved one's interests, being able to put those in the puzzle to spur that conversation and connection with the people in our life. Are you able to do that? Yeah.
Yeah. Every puzzle, can be up to 8 words, but my dad, we have family dinners with my dad today. And, I love spaghetti squash. My dad has it regularly when he comes to my house. And every time he says, "Oh, this is so good. What is this? I've never had it before." It's just not something he's, used to eating from his past. But you ask him anything about historical time when he served in combat, where he lived as a child, and those memories are still very clear for him. And so those are the puzzles that I would create for my dad. But I think really just the gift of customizing a puzzle, whether it's a holiday or just something reminiscent for up to 8 words, it could be more. But we're just really grateful at the opportunity that we are to do those intergenerational. We're all real comfortable with Zoom, and that's currently how we're doing our live game shows. And it's private. I've actually hosted a game virtually for 675 people before. It was a little wild, but we can one-on-one. Jack and I have had fun fun playing before. That's another story. Or we have played, with large family events, but the possibilities are really endless. And we're just really looking to give caregivers another tool in their belts, more, simplicity engagements. It can be one round and we could play for 5 minutes, or we could, Zoom in the whole family all over the country. It's a great way to play intergenerational with the college kids that can't come home, or a family member that can't travel. It's just really a beautiful gift.
Jack, you have been traveling the country, capturing story, asking all the questions, really diving into the lives of the people that make our country and our world so great. So, from your lens, how do you know and how do you decide what questions to ask people? And, for families that are like, how do I connect with my loved one? What do I say? Like, where do I start conversation? You have so many years of asking those questions. What would you share with us about that?
Well, it's interesting. I knew this whole TaleGate experience would be fun, and I was telling Sasha this last week. It's turned out to be a lot more profound. Maybe sounds over dramatic, but it really has been wild just to, just to interact with people on a different level. I think part of it is that I think it's easy because I'm a stranger. Sometimes I think I'm a stranger, and people see that I'm authentic, and I'm shocked at how just what you can get out of folks. And I think, I don't think I have any magic. You just ask open-ended questions and keep your mouth shut. It really is what it is. And 99% of the people that actually, that's probably pretty good advice in any age group, especially as a man talking to two women. I have a lot to learn along those lines. But no, I think that like 99% of the people that we've talked to, always in their 80s and 90s, or sometimes the hundreds. Most of them have never been mic'd up. They've never been under. We have a whole studio inside the trailer that with lights and it's a generation that's so full of humility, as opposed to, how many likes do I have? How many followers do I have? And they've done just unbelievable things in their lives, sometimes very simple and sometimes very profound. But it's all done with such a humility and also such a strong faith. There's a lot of stuff that I've kind of struggled with how to process with, my own life and my own kids, and it's a longer conversation. But it has been the most meaningful. I've had a life full of meaningful experiences, especially with IN2L. But I am so different from just having had this experience of just being surrounded by humility, grace, perseverance, joy, gratitude, all this stuff that just gets lost. And so, we're looking at ways to do it deeper and deeper next year that are kind of really pivoting a little bit away from the party and just doing a lot deeper story. Because the frustrating thing for me is you're talking to somebody who's got this whole story, and then you're like, you're like Willie Nelson, just on to the next community the next day. And, you want to spend hours and hours with some of these people. And next year we're going to be doing some things like that.
Can't wait to see it. And thank you for taking the time to capture that and to share the story. I know I've learned a lot, and it's been meaningful for people out there. So keep going. Keep doing it.
Right. Yeah.
Keep doing it. There's the power in those shared experiences. And Jack, when you talk with these individuals, are there families that are a part of that conversation, or are you able to share that conversation?
Oh yeah, no, every day is different. And so you walk into scenarios where some people are more private and some people are more open. I think one thing that's been kind of sad actually is how many times that really life-changing experiences for these elders that has really shaped who they are, good or bad, that the community has no idea. And I think it's easy, and I say this with incredible respect for the senior living world, so I'm not walking in people's shoes, so I don't pretend to be able to empathize with the work that they do. But I do think it's easy to get caught up in the tasks that you have to do, as far as feeding, bathing, the delivering meds, whatever, that the person's essence and their spirit can get lost a little bit. And it's like I said, it's a kind of an age group that don't always share unless they're asked, and don't are not going to be out calling their I'm lonely hotline. So I
Mhm.
just think it's the benefits of, or when you just see the culture of some organizations, that it's just woven into their DNA, that they get to know the person. I think the care is better that's delivered, and I think that the job satisfaction is a lot higher as well. So we've kind of seen the gamut, but it's amazing how taking a few minutes just to listen to somebody matters.
And I think too, sometimes I hear families say, I don't always know like how to connect with my loved one, or what to say or what to do. And I think that those shared experiences around a game or an activity or something, it gives us that
Yeah.
natural mechanism to then be able to foster that connection and ask the question, right? Or communication. It is something outside of us can help facilitate that, I found, which is, I2L does that, Utopia Experiences, it gives us
Right.
that bridge, right? That bridge of that communication when it might not feel comfortable. Some of us it's natural, some of us it's not.
Yeah, I think for me in the coming about, or birth of Spintopia was really, I didn't realize the need and the desire to connect. When I offered Sue that free game 2 years ago, it was really because she missed her grandkids, and those were the people I had been hosting games for. During quarantine was, women's clubs and family reunions and happy hours and retreats. And it was when she said, if you're willing to do it for my family, could you just do it for the seniors? And I thought, my first thought honestly was, my dad can't play this game. And so I wanted to do whatever Sue wanted me to do, because I wanted to pay her back in some aspect. And so when I sent her a Zoom link and she put it on 4 iPads, one was for my dad, two other residents that were recovering from a stroke, and one was a gentleman in his 30s, ATV accident, now paralyzed from the waist down. And in that time of quarantine, these people hadn't seen anyone without a mask in months. Then they see me, in this bright blazer and this lipstick and a bow and silly glasses. And we played a game that they already knew. We didn't have to be explained how to play or when it was your turn. And for 30 minutes, we just cheered each other on and guessed letters and played hangman, essentially. And at the end of the game, and I had honestly done hundreds of games up until that point in quarantine, but for the first time, when I said goodbye and thanks for playing, all of my contestants, i.e., residents, cried, including my father. And it was in that moment that I realized that this was what I wanted to do. I wanted to deliver a gift to people that couldn't easily otherwise connect with people. And it was so simple for me. And that's when I knew. I remember in kindergarten, Miss Whitaker's patted me on the head and said, "It's okay, Sasha, you'll be good at something one day," as I was like demolishing this clay squirrel. And I felt like, this is it. This is what I'm supposed to do. It didn't matter how hard it was. And it's not hard, to your point.
Oh,
Whatever happened to the squirrel? I feel bad about the squirrel now.
Yeah, I don't know. It was a pile of clay.
Well, that's a pretty intense kindergarten memory.
It stuck
I,
with me
I was
because
just taking naps somewhere. I have no of that
snack
kind of
time.
trauma.
Yeah.
it just didn't matter. I mean, through my, 45 years of working, or whatever it was, from 14 to 47, before I founded Utopia Experiences, I had been in tech sales. I had done well, but I never thought, oh, this is so great. I'm doing so much good in the world, and this makes me. It was never very fulfilling, financially fulfilling, but this is. And when things get hard, I get to do a demo, I get to go on site, I get to play a game, and I see them light up. And all of a sudden, it doesn't matter. None of it. And I feel related to you all in that way. I feel related to caregivers because they're not there for the money, right? They're there because they know that they have such value and that they're giving a gift of life for others. And it feels good.
And there's that balance, right, of like digital tech gamification and then real world, real life moments. How do you balance the two, right? Or how do you cater to both? I know that you had shared with me something that I thought was really cool about that.
Yeah, I think I've kind of started to, use more. I speak about it more, kind of coined senior game therapy. And when I started doing my own research on what it is, all I could find was like where to send your teen for, too many video games. And this is quite the opposite. This is where do you log in to connect with your loved ones all over the country from the comfort of your own home? So Spintopia at home is really a gift to everybody that of all ages. I'm specifically focused on seniors because of my dad, and that was how the company was founded. But truly, you see it in some of our videos, from a 4-year-old to a 109-year-old, this game can be played and connected with everything in between. And that's really the gift of the therapy. It's a joyful word, not a word to be meant that you need help. It's let us come together.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's like I said before, that has nothing to do with aging. Like during COVID, I got 3 kids in their late 20s that are scattered around the US, and we would play remote Catan. I don't know if you know the name Catan.
Love
But
that
it's
game.
it's a great game, and it's like an hour to play it. And we had so many side conversations during the game that sometimes it's just as a parent you kind of like you on the your life is a text relationship, and the phone calls are, hey, gotta go, dad, see you, dad, great, thanks, you're a nice guy, dad, you're great. And it's like there's no interaction, but that it was
Right.
cool playing that game, and we still do it now. And I think that you just get in it's just like going. One of the coolest things for me over the years about IN2L would be when you'd hear from the residents' kids how their grandkids hated to go to the community, and then with IN2L they could have something to do that was fun, and then it could rope granddad in, and you Google Zoom to Russia, or whatever the hell you want to do. All these experiences that are just normal for the grandkid, as opposed to sitting in a room and like, when's the time over? And it's just funky dynamics that I think the games help go away, and being able to do it remotely, like with Utopia, is huge.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. So much so. And so many families are caregiving from a distance and they're trying to find ways to connect when they're so far away. So it really is able to bring people together for that. And with bringing people together, Jack, with the TaleGate journey, how have you seen people be really creative in sharing story or bringing families and people together?
Yeah, I mean, it's interesting because for, I don't know who's listening, but anybody who knows me, literally for over 20 years, I was lugging my IN2L demo system into communities and doing demos, and I would just be in and out. I never really would get the essence of a community. But TaleGate, you're there all day, sometimes a couple of days, and you really see how the dynamics of a community. And it's not, I was saying a little bit before, there's organizations, and I'm always so wary to name organizations because you forget who you didn't name, but places like Arrow Senior Living out of St. Louis, MBK out of Southern California, Methodist Retirement Communities in Texas. There's groups that the culture within their building to find out about the residents in a superficial or healthcare way. And I just think that, you do it because it's the right reason, but I think you do it because then you get better outcomes. You get people that are engaged. You get I'm just astounded at seeing just the energy that is out there among staff about doing, God's work. So there's a zillion issues in senior living, staff wise and payment wise and all that kind of stuff. But at the core of it is still people doing really, really cool work for not a lot of money, for reasons that transcend, just a paycheck. And so I just have loved being able to just kind of see what it's really like, and see. The only job I would qualify for possibly is an activity director, but anyway, it's a lot more going on inside those walls than I ever knew before.
Oh gosh, yeah, all the conversation and pulling people out of those rooms, having the connection. And when you get to go in and actually spend, like you said, right? If you don't spend a lot of time, you don't really know all the details of what's happening.
Yeah, there was a guy, I'll make this real quick. There was a guy in Texas that we interviewed, really cool interview. The end of the day, we're leaving, and he waved me upstairs to say goodbye to him, and I thought it was just going to be handshake goodbye, and he just, intensely looked me in the eye and said that you made me feel relevant today, and I don't feel relevant very often. And I think that's kind of the subtle or not so subtle power of getting to know people's stories, is it makes them feel like what they've done in their life has mattered and not just the next meal. And that's what that guy taught me for sure.
One of the things I heard you say, Jack, was you do it because you get better outcomes. And I think that that's really just an intuitive gift that you have when you connect people, when you meet people, when you engage with people, whether it's seniors or people in the industry, friends. It's just you have a really good eye for spotting those people that do really cool work. And you're right, it's better together. And there's enough people that want to connect, that want to serve and help and give back and share their passion. And we're stronger together. So thanks for seeing that in me. And thanks for always being, direct and clear and supportive. And it's meant a lot to me.
Like I said, you get what you pay for.
Exactly.
Well, I know Jack is absolutely looked up to and admired in this space. So I'm happy that you're here. And for the future of Spintopia, and for people considering it, trying it for the first time, especially, those adults that are at home and supporting loved ones and family caregivers, what advice would you give them? Where can we learn more?
Gosh, well, with the holidays coming up, I know we're all busy and we all have the best intentions to plan, to connect and engage. And it comes with a lot of pressure sometimes to coordinate and get it all right. And hopefully, your loved ones are all participatory and available when you get it all together. But we are kind of like a great plan B at the same time. We do these live hosted hands-free game shows where we are essentially a virtual activities assistant at a fraction of the cost. We're doing live games to connect your families over Zoom, all over the country, all over the world. And, whether it's a 30-minute game or an hour game, we do a quick meeting and get to learn about your family and get some custom puzzles on the board. And it really sparks some really beautiful conversation, memories, and engagement with intergenerational connection. So just check out our website, utopiaexperiences.net, contact me, and we'll get you up and playing. You'll be a contestant before you know it.
Yeah. And where can we learn about TaleGate, Jack? Tell us what you're up to.
Yeah,
it's
I'd like to say this is being clever, but all the domain of TaleGate was gone. So it's TaleGate, the number 4, and then the word joy. So that's our website link, or you can also, we partner with Dash Media to do a lot of our social media work. I never get social media stuff figured out, so Dash helps us out with that. But it's, you can find the TaleGate for joy. I mean, we've got Instagram, TikTok, all kinds of stuff. We've had, on some of the clips we've had, have had tens of thousands of views. So it's really cool to see that, even just these little snippets do help move the needle on aging. So
yeah,
it's been a crazy experience.
And more to come. I'm looking forward to
more
that.
to come.
Yeah.
That's right.
Thank you so much. Thank you, Sasha. Thank you, Jack. Thank you for sharing with us. It's so hard to, narrow down questions to just almost an hour. I have many more, so we'll have to continue at another time, but I appreciate it. And thank you for being here.
Thank
All
you.
right, thanks.
Thank you, Jack.
Thank you for listening today. If you enjoyed our episode, please subscribe and give us 5 stars. In all honesty, we'd love to hear from you. Thank you so much for listening to our episode.